Hi everyone, my name is Allison DeJager with List Self Storage and Store Track. Today we're discussing the strategies for improving the value of your facility. We're joined today by three really great people in the industry: Warren Dazzio, Ark A. Kliebenstein, and then Troy Bix. I just wanted to see if everyone can kind of go around and chat about their experience in the space, how long they've been around, just the broad overview. So Warren, can you get started?
Sure. So I've been in this world. My company is called CSSI, and I've been here for maybe 9 years now, I think, in the self-storage space. And I think the easy overview that I could say is many people look at improving their facilities and improving the value of their facilities, and they simply look at materials and labor, and they talk about renovations, projects, that sort of thing. And the only thing that I would add to that is they might be leaving a ton on the table if they don't add tax to that equation. So when you're doing a renovation, talking about increasing the value of your property, if you're going to do a big project like doors, lights, roof, paint, whatever, in addition to materials and labor, I would think about tax as part of that equation. So little teaser there for you.
Great. Troy, can you talk a little bit about your experience?
Sure. I got in the business in 1986 with Minico and Hardy Good and the Mini Storage Messenger magazine. Launched Inside Self Storage in 1991, and sold my equity in 2017 and joined Janus to head up the R3 division, which is restore, rebuild, and replace. So we now are focusing on the 30 to 40,000. 20 and 30-year-old facilities out there that have old doors, no technology typically, and are ready for a renovation. So little teaser there, our R3 program is very vast, starts with door replacement. Do you want me to go into some specifics now, or we want to wait?
Yeah, we'll get to that because I did want RK to kind of touch on his
Perfect.
Hello, I'm RK, and thanks for allowing me to participate, Allison and group. I've been in the storage industry for 30 some odd plus years, about the same time Troy got in it. When he was at Minico, I was at National Self Storage down the road from him a bit. And since then, I have been in charge of acquisition and development for Extra Space, for the predecessor to what is today CubeSmart. I've had a consulting business for well over a decade and have enjoyed the opportunities to work with developers, acquirers, all kinds of folks who are looking at the self-storage space. And I myself am in the process of developing 5 stores currently and looking at acquisition of about $80 million worth of stores over the next 90 days.
Great. So we're in the presence of a lot of experience today. We're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So kind of focusing, really to everyone, but Troy, I kind of want you to start with this one, but who's a good fit for facility updates?
Well, there's a lot of good fits out there. Starting with the piece that moves is the door, right? We want a safe, functional, safe, and secure door. That's number one. It's imperative for the owners and operators to take ownership on that safe experience for the customer. So we start out with looking at, what do your doors look like? Are they functional? Are they secure? Are they safe? And then we go into all kinds of things to make more money and add value to potential metal siding on wooden buildings, to technology Noki on how to experience contactless rents. We go into roofing now. We have a full 24/7, 365 maintenance program. So if your facility is 20 years or older, we ought to at least say hi, right? And maybe stop by. And we have a seamless program where we just send out a field tech. It doesn't cost you anything. And we'll do a complete assessment on your site and basically give you an a la carte menu on, hey, if you had all the money in the world and you really wanted to raise rents and provide a good product, here's 3 things, here's 5 things, here's 9 things that we can do. And then of course the partnership with Warren and the cost seg side of it, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So these things are actual no-brainers. They're consultative type conversations. A lot of the owners, if their door goes up and down, unfortunately, they're good with it, regardless of how it goes up and down. So it's not the easiest thing to to educate folks when they need our help, but we do it every day.
Yeah. Do you see anyone that's maybe not a great fit? You mentioned raising rental rates, and there are some still who would prefer not to, even at 100% occupancy.
Yeah, well, that's one of the dumb things the independents are doing now, is that the 100% occupancy doesn't make any sense at all, right? No inventory, all the above. You're leaving money on the table. Absolutely. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So those folks are the ones that take the longest to basically educate on how we can help them. I like to be very blunt because we have a lot of opportunities out there. If you're not going to raise rents, you're probably not going to do business with us, right? So if you're fearful that you're going to lose, 3 or 4 prospects, or your cousin or your fishing buddy is going to leave, this is not for you. But if you want to make money, create value down the road, of course, safety, functionality, and security, let's talk.
Yeah. RK, Warren, do you have anything to add to that?
One of the things that I think is highly deficient in the process, and that I'm a big advocate of, is almost everyone who's acquiring a self-storage property of any size gets what's called a property condition assessment or a property condition report. And those are typically provided by engineering companies. They may also be doing their phase 1. They may be doing the survey work. There's a number of things that are in the due diligence process. And I have a special scope that is added to the ASTM scope for a PCA. And one of the things that I require is that when the engineer goes on site, that they open and close every vacant unit door. Now, if you're 100% occupied, obviously that's not a very big deal. I just came off of an assignment in Texas, and there were over 200 vacant units inside the property. And so I opened and closed every single one of those doors, made a note as to whether or not they had the weather strip seal on the bottom, a pull handle on the string on the door, and then also did the door operate properly. In other words, was it going to fall down on somebody, or was somebody going to get a hernia trying to open that door? And those are the things that I think are important, because if you don't check that box and you don't know what the quantity is, you can't possibly have a good estimate of your value in terms of what it's going to take to provide the CapEx necessary to bring that property up to A speed. Same is true with the roofer. They do look at the roofs, but the engineers they send out are not typically roofing experts. So it's really great if you can team up with somebody like Troy and that program to get a comprehensive look at that store and to get a really good idea of what it's going to take to bring that store to the value proposition that's there, and then hopefully to increase those rents going forward. So I encourage everybody that you don't just use the ASTM standard that's there, but you go one step beyond that and you really look at what's quote unquote behind the door.
That's great. Warren, did you want to add anything? Actually,
sure. I'll add just a little bit to that. Is that both of what Troy and RK are saying is right on. And from our perspective, people are familiar for the most part with cost segregation, and they also know that when you do an improvement, that there's bonus depreciation. I mean, there's a tax play when you put new things in your building. What many people are not aware of is when you tear something out and throw that in the trash. So you've got doors that you're depreciating and you tear them out and throw them in the trash. Or we have an LED lighting company that's part of CSSI as well. You tear out old lights. You can expense the remaining value of those. So you get an expense and a tax savings at the time you do the renovation. And then there's also a tax play when you sell the building, because you've then lowered your basis and you have less taxes. You have more capital gains and less personal tax when you sell a property. So there's a tax play at the end. So the key thing I think to remember is realize that when you tear something out of your facility and throw it in the trash, there's a tax play, and not everybody's aware of that.
Yes, I did want to talk next actually about the other benefits to facility updates, because we do know it's great for increasing your rental rates, great for insurance when obviously you're making something safer, but then the tax benefits I wanted you to kind of chat through a little bit.
Sure. So generally speaking, when you buy a facility, you can do a process called cost segregation, and that creates more depreciation to offset your income. But when you do a renovation project, there are 3 or 4 tax plays. So if you're doing New items outside or inside, those assets are usually classified as a 5 or a 15 year asset, and that qualifies for bonus depreciation. Then when you remove them, it's called a partial asset disposition. I'm disposing of something that's on my facility. There's another tax play there, and that's the thing that no one's aware of. People have heard about cost segregation and they've heard about bonus depreciation, so they know when I put something new in, I get a benefit. But you might be leaving a lot on the table if you leave the other thing. And in the end, what you're doing is increasing the value of your facility. You know, if you got better doors, if you've got safer doors, if you've got new lighting, if you got bright colors, all that allows you to increase your rent, and all that allows you to sell it for more on the back end when you're ready to exit that. So that's what I would add to that equation.
Yeah, I have and the other part too that we don't really talk about with staffing actually is another benefit, because some of the upgrades, like the smart locks, that can let you see when your tenants are coming and going from the facility, what times of the day they're there. And so you kind of know how to staff a little bit better, which is one of the larger expenses. I actually did want to continue that. What you had just mentioned, though, Warren, Steve, RK, if you can talk about the value and how that does change the sale price if the owner does go to sell.
Yes, so I want to opine to what Warren said, because he's dead on with his assessment there. But the IRS, that whole tax code, and the fact that they are allowing you these deductions, whether it be for bonus depreciation or standard depreciation or cost segregation, all of those are actually designed so that at some point in time when these items need replacing, the IRS has already given you a provision to do so. And it astounds me when an owner says, well, I don't have the money to do that. And I go back and say, well, didn't you take depreciation over the last 10 or 15 years? And they always say, oh, of course I did. I took as much depreciation as I could. I said, well, what did you do with that money? And usually they say, well, I put it in my pocket and I went on vacation that year. Well, that's great. But the whole reason the IRS set that up was so that guys like Troy could then sell them the products they need to bring their property back up to its original and 100% condition. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. They just think that the tax code is there to help them increase their bottom line at the end of the day, but it has a really specific purpose. And the bonus depreciation is the same thing. It's to encourage you to stimulate the economy. That's one of the reasons it was put in the code, was we thought that would put more money back in the economy as people spent that money with providers like Troy, so that they were generating more activity in the economy, which then, of course, increases rents. And vis-a-vis means that you're going to have more tax base. So it's a very logical explanation for that, but most people don't really understand why that was put in the tax code to begin with. So it's important that you know that Uncle Sam's actually putting that money in your pocket for a rainy day so that you can execute and keep your property up in great condition. One of the things that is also important is people to understand what the cap rate is and what that really means about the value of a property. The mathematical formula is very easy. You just take your net operating income, you divide it by a cap rate, or whatever you think that cap rate might be today. Some people say it's a 3.5% cap rate. Some people say it's a 5%. You just divide it by that 0.035 or 0.05, and that gives you the value of your property. Or if you're selling your property and you know the sale price, you can divide it by your net operating income, and that would give you the cap rate, that percentage that's there. What is important to note is that at a 5 cap, and I think we're in a better than a 5 cap environment today, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we were at a solid 5% cap rate. That means for every single dollar that you bring to the bottom line, in other words, net operating income, that represents $20 in value to your property. So it's pretty easy math to see that if you can increase your bottom line by just a very small amount, that the multiplier of that times $20 is very, very significant in what it does to your value. When you go to a 3 cap, that multiple even gets much, much better than the $20. So as you look at that and think about it, you're trying to really get your net operating income to its premium position, where you're sending as much money to the bottom line as you can, which there's only 2 ways to do that. You have to increase the top line and you have to decrease the expenses. Either one of those two grows that net operating income, and that's the multiplier that at $20 for value. So it's very easy to see that all you have to do is raise your rents a very small amount, and the affordability of being able to contact somebody like Troy for the 3-hour program, it's a no-brainer. It's very, very easy. And then you go to a guy like Warren, and he helps you to recapture all that value back in the tax savings. So it's a really kind of like a holistic approach that you go from the one side to the other, but we all work together in trying to get to the same goal, which is to increase the value of your property or to provide more net operating income.
When you put it that way, it's kind of a no-brainer between investing in the facility and taking the vacation. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure investing in your facility produces a little bit of a better return than a trip to Mexico. But I mean, I don't know, right?
Depends on whether or not you go to Vegas and you hit the big one.
I mean, there's that, right? Yeah. Did you guys want to add anything to that? It was pretty extensive.
Yeah, let me, if I can, kind of wrap up, R3, because it's expanding typically quarterly, at least on what the scope is. Restore, rebuild, replace is of course the Genesis. It includes the door replacement, right? It's the ethical and fiduciary duty of the owners to create a safe experience, period. Somebody gets hurt on their site, it's on them. Everybody knows it. I'm fearful, and I talked about this yesterday to some folks in the industry, that as soon as some of these ambulance chasers figure out what our industry has become, and if they were to get behind some of these gates, there would be a free-for-all on stuff that's going on with our industry. So I don't want to sell fear, but it's the owner's fiduciary duty and ethical duty to create a safe experience. So starts with the door, right? We do the siding on metal buildings, metal over metal, or wood buildings. The remixes are huge. You've got a lot of small units you can't rent. We come in and change all that out. We have the opportunity with mass, which are the portable units. You have extra parking space. If you want to add value, drop some mass in. Typically, you don't need a permit. Sometimes you do. That's instant drive up opportunities for folks. And these mass buildings end up looking better than some of these existing buildings that are out there. And tenants, your problem is tenants want to rent in the mass and they don't want the old units. So you add the roofing side of it, you add to facilitate 24/7, 365 maintenance. We can really help you out. And it doesn't cost you anything. We'll go out, assess the site, take a look at everything and say, hey, here's some things we'd suggest. And of course, Noki, all the data mining, you mentioned it, the data mining, the cost savings, the men and women that are out there looking at their dashboards and seeing that their peak times for rents are 9 to 11 in the morning and 3 to 4:30 in the afternoon. Well, that's when they have a live person. So you've cut your expenses 60, 70% on the management side. You overlock digitally instead of people walking around the site like you used to. So, and here's the great thing that I really like. Some of the naysayers were thinking and saying that the older demographic wouldn't like it. Well, there's a site down in Tucson and down in Marana that there's not a tenant under 50. If you have an engaged manager that will teach them how to download the app, they will do the whole experience, pay for it, run their digital coding, everything online, like all the young people do. So it's really the way to go. It's so convenient. So smart unit, dumb units, that's what Extra Space is using. That's interesting. One with technology, one without. So there's a lot of really neat things coming down the pike with these digital gates. You don't get out of here. You don't stretch your arm out for a keypad. You hit your phone, gate opens, go back to your door beeps, or the door opens with this technology. So I believe we're 20 years still behind on the technology side in this industry. It's good that we're catching up. So there's a lot of things we can do together to just help these folks out.
Absolutely. I did want to, the safety issue that you had mentioned, just as a customer, the bare minimum for me would be that it is safe. And you think about, this isn't something that you do every day. Every day, brush your teeth. Every day, you might go out to your car. Every day, you walk your dog. These are things that we're used to. And so it's not going to throw us off if something doesn't go exactly as planned. But you don't go to a storage unit every day. You don't move every single day. So when something throws off in that environment, when it's already so unfamiliar, I mean, there's a lot there. So yeah, the bare minimum as a consumer is that I'm not going to get hurt when I'm going to your facility. All right. I think we did touch on so many of them, but are there any other channels that you think are improved by renovation? Oh, sorry, I meant to, I'm the only person that's supposed to do this. Troy, can you get it started, please? It's my only job.
What's that now?
Oh, just see if there are any other channels that are improved by renovations.
The cap rates, the value, the whole experience, all the above. Again, it's an epidemic going on right now of folks leaving money on the table. I'll bet you 70% of independents out there are leaving money on the table today. It's everywhere. They're bragging about the 100% occupancy, and I just think they've gotten a little bit lazy, to be honest. Their entrepreneurial spirit 20 years ago is a little bit gone, and I kind of understand it when you're trucking money to the bank, right? And you don't even know what you can do with the money you have. I'll tell you a quick story. This is funny. We've got a couple minutes. Is this okay? You've got another 3 or 4 minutes?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Richard Lilly and I, or excuse me, Nelson Hendricks, one of the Texas R3 reps, and I went to Dallas for a week. We're going to go old school, get on the road. So we were driving through, I think it was Denton, Texas, and we saw an independent. There wasn't even a gate or fence around the facility. Looked like it was about 175, 180 units, right? Block built, looked like it was built in the 70s. So we pulled in, and again, no fence, no gate, no nothing, just units, trailers parked in every nook and cranny. It was a mess. Looked like the roofs were rusted. The office, the guy rented out as a climate controlled unit with a man door on it. So we're pulling out thinking, oh my gosh, we hit the home run here, right? This is a great story. So a guy comes pulling in his dually Ford pickup truck, and Nelson goes, that's probably the owner. Oh yeah, great, let's talk to him. So he pulls up and sees our Janus shirts and goes, hey guys, you guys are from Janus. Yeah, we are. He says, well, how are you doing today? Big Texas guy. Turns off his truck. So I thought, okay, we got him. And we started talking about all the things we can offer him, right? The technology, a gate, God forbid, a gate. His doors were just pathetic. I don't think it's been, hasn't done anything in years. Here's what he told us. He said, I'm 80 years old. I got 3 girlfriends. All I do is travel from one girlfriend to the next. And I have 3 sites just like this. This is an 80-year-old man. He said, I don't care about my rents. I make money right now that I can't figure out what to do with it. As far as security, if someone breaks in one of my units, I grew up here, I get on my cell phone and I call the 3 guys that probably did it. And I tell them to get their stuff back at this unit in 24 hours, or I'm calling the police. He did all the rents on his cell phone, He managed it himself. What else did he say? As far as a succession plan, he goes, I got a couple of kids that aren't worth a damn. I'm not giving them anything. So right now I'm going to cash flow this thing. I'm the cheapest in town. I'm full all day long, and I don't want the headaches of anything else. And we drove away stunned. There was nothing we could say, right? He just, and here's the thing. He was the nicest man in the world. It was one of the nicest no's I've received in my whole life. He said, guys, thanks for, he said, guys, thanks for coming. I get what you do, and I'm 100% on board, but I'm not your guy. I'm going to Honolulu to meet one of my girlfriends, and then I'm going to go see he's 80 years old. And He said, look, I'm having fun in my life. I don't need any disruption with my facility. And I don't even know what I'm going to do with it when I die, but I don't care. Now, then he went into a 30-minute, here's where you should go eat steaks. Here's where you should go to get Mexican food. Gave us a cell number and said, if you get any problems, give me a call. I'll help you out. I grew up here. Now, where do you go with that?
Well,
Didn't
Troy,
care
you have to assume that his 3 girlfriends are each going to own a self-storage property here shortly.
There you go.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
And they're happy about that.
He said his boys are rotten. He said he's not going to give them anything. And every question we asked him, he said it with a big smile. He said, guys, listen, I should do everything that you have right now, but I'm not your guy. So there are those out there. That's the extreme, right? The other extreme is, and this is more of it, is that folks are afraid to raise their rents, and they've been full, and there's demand everywhere they live in these rural little markets, even in Flagstaff here in some respects. There's a lot of stuff coming, but they sit there and they hang on to these rents and they're scared, and they just won't do the second grade math to look at the value that it would create to get a 10% hit on these doors and those sorts of things. So there's a lot of folks leaving money on the table. The independents are still the lion's share in the business. I don't care what the REITs are saying out there on how much combined market share they have. The REITs are still the lion's share. And I'm going to say today, it's still in the 70 percentile that the independents own the sites in the business. So while there was building, the independents were building too. So anyway, that's all I got.
You know, Troy, you make a really good point about the lost opportunity. And oftentimes I'll sit down with owners and we'll have a conversation. And I like to ask them, do you remember back when your kids were small and you missed that ball game that you didn't go to? Or do you remember maybe a time when there was a Christmas pageant that you didn't attend for one reason or another? And do you know how lost that is, that you're never going to get that time back? Raising your rents is exactly the same thing. Every day that you don't seize that opportunity, every day that you pass it by is another day that you're not going to get it back sometime in the future. And so the question often asked is, well, when do I raise my rents? Yesterday is the answer. And tomorrow is the second part of that answer, because you want to continue to grow your property and grow your facility so that your girlfriends can get richer someday so they can contact Troy to get those improvements they need.
Hey, we don't mind who gets the value here. We don't at all. We want everyone or anyone to get the value, but get the value.
Yeah, it helps the industry as a whole.
Right. You have to be confident about your facility, though, your store. You've got to know that you can raise those rents. And that's why a lot of those folks don't raise their rents, is because they don't have that confidence. They may have been talked out of it by their on-site manager who's been there for 15 or 20 years and is the nicest person in the world, but they don't get it. They're not directly responsible for the growth and the profit in that store. And so they're afraid that they're going to have to deal with an upset tenant who wants to move out. So they tell the owner, oh, you can't raise rents. Everybody will move out. And I know that they use that word everybody all the time. Well, it's not true. It doesn't really happen. We can show them mathematically how much you could lose percent of occupancy, but with the right amount of increase in rents, you'll outrun that every day of the week. And remember, you can always go back if you have to. You can always lower rents if you absolutely have to. In other words, if you overestimate it and your occupancy starts to drop precipitously, then you can always soften that, or maybe use concessions instead of discounts. I'm a big guy for proponent that you use concessions. You use temporary measures to increase rentals. Don't destroy your rent roll by decreasing your rents. And you can find that sweet spot that's there. And, you know, Extra Space has spent tens and tens of millions of dollars finding that algorithm that gets it to the perfect position. And while we don't have the money to do that as independent owner operators, we can leverage what they do. All you have to do is understand that the idea today is put butts in the seats, get your occupancy up to as high as you can, and then start to raise your rents so that it turns the physical occupancy into economic occupancy, which is profit. But you've got to have the confidence. You got to change the attitude of your manager so that they know that, look, we're providing a safer place today. That's worth more rent. We're providing a cleaner place today. That's worth more rent. All of those things give you the confidence to go out and raise your rents.
And if you're
No doubt.
Yeah, and full circle. I mean, exactly what we started with. Do the renovations in order to increase rent. Use the tax to pay for the renovations. Increase rent. Everybody wins. You know, I mean, it's just an easy equation.
Absolutely. Well, if you're setting the bottom in that market and then you just kind of meet the market, they're not going to find any competitor that's worth the move out. I did want to ask.
Well, the REITs aren't. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the REITs aren't leaving money on the table. I promise you.
Great. Exactly.
Where there's a
before
penny
we
to
close-
get, they'll get that penny.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to see if anybody had anything to add before we close out.
No, I got on my soapbox and almost fell off of it, so I'm okay.
I
Yeah.
did want to ask real quick, Troy, do you know what dating apps that guy was on?
Oh.
Asking for a friend. I'm asking for a friend.
You
I'll
need an
send his
80-year-old.
Hey, he was a pretty viral guy. I mean, like I said, he jumped out of the truck. He was a big man. He was in good shape, and he had a keen eyeball. And I was like, wow, man, it was. I loved the whole experience. I loved it because he was so doggone honest, right, in a nice way, and just said, look, here's who I am, and that's just the way it's going to be. And when I lay down, there's someone else can worry about this. But right now, I'm having fun, and I'm the cheapest in town. All three of my facilities don't have fences, don't have gates. There you go.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate spending the time to do this. If anyone has any questions, you can reach out to me at Allison, ALISON, at listselfstorage.com, or give me a call at 248-795-8126. Thank you.
Allison,
so
how about
much.
if we give our contact information?
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
Okay. Troy Bix, troy.bix at Janus, JANUSINTL.com, or 480-390-5206.
Right, Warren Dazzio, W, DAZZIOW at costsegserve.com, COSTSEGSERVE.com, or 225-241-9823.
And I am RK with the easiest email address of all of you, rk@askrk.com, ASKRK.com. And my telephone number is 561-797-2721. Hope to hear from you. I would just love to discuss your project. No charge whatsoever. Let's just have a conversation about it, and we'll figure out how we can hook in Troy and Warren to the process.
Yeah. Thank you
Sounds good.
so much, everyone. I really appreciate your time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.